Your dog licks you, and you assume it means love. But what if that lick is actually your dog saying back off? This is the real science behind why dogs lick humans, and some of what researchers have found will genuinely surprise you. Long before dogs curled up on our couches, their ancestors relied on a gesture that was anything but sentimental. In the wild, wolf pups have a clear purpose. When they lick the muzzle of an adult, they're asking for dinner. Field studies on Ellesmere Island tracked packs over nearly a decade and found that pups, just weeks old, would crowd around a returning hunter, licking and nuzzling her mouth with an intensity that left little doubt about their intentions. The result, in 81% of these encounters, was that the adult responded by regurgitating partially digested meat right into the eager mouths of her pups. This was no random act. Successful begging often played out in less than 5 seconds, and the more persistent the licking, the greater the chance of a meal. Researchers have even captured this ritual on video, a cluster of red wolf pups, barely a month old, licking and pawing at their mother's face until she obliges with a mouthful of food. The pattern is so consistent that biologists now recognize muzzle licking as a key survival strategy in the early weeks of life. It's not just wolves either. Coyotes and foxes show the same behavior, though adult foxes seem to drop the habit as they age. Cognitive scientist Alexandra Horowitz has drawn a straight line from this ancient act to the licks we get from our own dogs today. In her words, a dog's lick is a greeting, but also a request for whatever you just ate.
What started as a hungry plea has become a ritual, passed down through generations, that still shapes how dogs communicate with us. But as we'll see, the meaning of a lick has only grown more complicated over time.
A dog's lick is far more than a leftover reflex from hungry wolf pups. Behavioral experts now argue that licking is, at its core, a language, one that dogs use to speak with us, even if we don't always catch the message. Ellen Furlong, who leads the Dog Behavior and Cognition Lab at Transylvania University, puts it plainly. If we want to distill it down to one thing, it's communication. That means every lick, whether sloppy or tentative, is a signal, sometimes a greeting, sometimes a request, and sometimes a subtle check-in about the state of the relationship. Science is catching up to this idea. In 2017, Evan McLean and colleagues ran a controlled experiment measuring oxytocin, the so-called bonding hormone, in dogs after just 10 minutes of friendly human interaction. The result? Salivary oxytocin shot up by an average of 39%. That's not a minor blip, it's a measurable chemical surge that mirrors what happens between mothers and infants. The numbers are clear. A brief, positive encounter with a person can trigger a neurochemical wave in a dog, one that likely reinforces the urge to seek connection and, yes, to lick. But the story doesn't stop at affection. Researchers like Furlong and Alexandra Horowitz warn that licking isn't a one-size-fits-all gesture. The field is still piecing together the puzzle, and motives can shift depending on context, past experience, and even the mood of the dog. As Furlong notes, it's communication, but what's being said depends on the whole picture, not just the tongue. This sets the stage for a much broader look at what dogs might be trying to tell us, and why the answer isn't always what we expect. A dog's tongue isn't just channeling ancient instincts, it's also a finely tuned attention tool, sharpened by daily life with humans. Professional trainers see licking as one of the clearest examples of learned behavior in the canine world. When a dog licks your hand, your face, or even your jeans, the odds are good that it's not just a throwback to wolf pups begging for food, it's a move that has been rewarded over and over by human reaction. Even a simple smile, a gentle word, or a quick scratch behind the ear can turn a random lick into a go-to strategy for getting noticed. This isn't speculation, it's the backbone of countless training protocols. Applied behavior experts routinely coach owners to redirect unwanted licking into a more useful task. If a dog licks for attention, trainers will often teach a go-to mat command or encourage a sit-stay, rewarding the new behavior with treats or praise. The logic is simple. What gets rewarded gets repeated. Over time, dogs learn that licking is a reliable way to cut through the noise of a busy household. Of course, this doesn't mean every lick is calculated. In the real world, dogs are masters at reading their environment and adapting their tactics. If licking opens doors literally or figuratively, you can bet they'll use it. That's why understanding the context and how we respond is just as important as decoding the behavior itself. A dog's tongue is more than a tool for taste. It is a chemical sensor tuned to the signals our bodies give off. Joe Gale, a neuroscientist at Waltham Pet Care, describes licking as a way for dogs to gather information about us, right down to the invisible traces of our mood. Recent studies show that dogs can actually smell human stress. When people undergo a stressful event, their skin releases a unique mix of chemicals, including a spike in cortisol. In a controlled scent test, trained dogs identified sweat samples from stressed humans with over 70% accuracy. This is not just a party trick. It means your dog might know you are anxious before you say a word. But does this sensitivity translate into action? Emily Sanford at Johns Hopkins put it to the test. In her experiment, dogs watched their owners sit behind a clear door, sometimes humming calmly, sometimes crying. When the owners cried, dogs opened the barrier 3 times faster than when things were calm. The majority of dogs, regardless of breed or age, responded to distress by pushing through to help. Those that could not reach their owner showed higher stress themselves, suggesting a kind of emotional contagion. Licking in this light becomes a way for dogs to check in, offer support, or even try to soothe both you and themselves. It is not just about love or habit, it is a response to what they sense in the air between you.
Not every lick is aimed at you or even about you. Sometimes a dog turns to licking as a way to manage its own feelings or to keep social peace. M.W. Fox, a pioneer in animal behavior, documented how puppies and even adult wolves and coyotes use licking to signal deference to higher-ranking pack members. In these moments, the lick is less a sign of love and more a quiet, "you're the boss" gesture, a way to smooth over tension or avoid conflict. Ellen Furlong echoes this, describing the gesture as a social script borrowed from ancient pack life, now played out in our living rooms. But licking also seems to help some dogs calm themselves. You'll hear trainers and pet blogs claim that licking releases endorphins, giving dogs a little chemical boost to soothe stress. The truth? While this idea fits with what's known about self-soothing in other mammals, actual proof in dogs is still missing. No published study has measured endorphin spikes after a dog licks. For now, it's an informed guess, plausible but unconfirmed. Fox's comparative studies add another twist. While wolves and coyotes keep up the deference lick into adulthood, foxes largely drop the habit. That drop-off suggests the licking's meaning can shift or even fade depending on the species and social setting. In domestic dogs, the gesture survives and often gets amplified, especially when it comes to navigating the tricky waters of human-dog relationships. Sometimes a lick is simply a peace offering, a way to say, "I'm no threat." But in a moment, we'll see how this polite signal can flip, turning into a subtle plea for space that many owners miss.
Not every lick is an invitation for closeness. Norwegian ethologist Turid Rugaas coined the term "kiss to dismiss" for a subtle but important signal, a quick flick of the tongue, often paired with a stiff posture, averted eyes, or a head turned away. This is not a sign of affection. It is a dog's way of asking for space before things get tense. Trainers and behaviorists warn that missing this cue can let stress build, sometimes leading to a snap or a bite if the dog feels cornered. The kiss to dismiss is a classic example of what Rugaas calls a calming signal, a polite request to back off, not a gesture of love. Recognizing this early warning can prevent misunderstandings and keep both dogs and people safer.
For most people, a dog's lick is harmless, sometimes even welcome. But there is a rare bacterial risk that deserves a closer look, especially for those with weaker immune systems. The culprit is Capnocytophaga canemorsus, a bacterium found in many dogs' mouths. While healthy adults almost never get sick, the numbers tell a sobering story for certain groups. Each year, only about 0.5 to 0.67 people per million develop a serious infection. Yet, when sepsis does occur, the outcome can be severe. Around 26% of those cases end in death. People without a spleen, those with immune compromise, infants, and the elderly face the highest danger. For them, even a friendly lick, especially on broken skin, can open the door to trouble. The risk is low, but not zero. For anyone in these groups, it is best to avoid face licking and to keep wounds covered. Context, once again, matters more than the act itself. Forget the old line about a dog's mouth being cleaner than yours. Sequencing studies put the count at about 600 bacterial types in dogs, 615 in humans. Different microbes, similar numbers. And the salty skin theory? In controlled trials, dogs licked salty and non-salty skin for nearly identical times, 22.6 seconds versus 22.9 seconds. The real lesson is humility. As Zachary Silver puts it, even the experts do not have all the answers. So, when your dog licks you, check the context, read the body language, and remember, science is still catching up to what your dog's trying to say. A lick is not always a love note. It can be a nuanced, context-driven signal, from empathy to the kiss to dismiss. As McLean's team showed, oxytocin rises, but motives are not always obvious. Reading body language, not myths, is the real key. Your dog's truth depends on your curiosity.